Hello, I'm Ryan Fleming, crafts editor of Deadline, and here today is Doing It. We have Lily Singh and Sarah
Zandia.
Sandia.
As her best friend, I'm gonna just say this because I've learned on this film she'll never correct anyone. It's Sarah, but it's not. It's because she will never correct anyone. So if you want to do that again, I'm just gonna tell you it's Sarah because she'll let you say Sarah this whole damn time. You can say Bobby and she'll respond. Honestly,
No. Sarah. But yes,
but
Sarah.
it's Sarah.
I will say Sarah for the rest of
No,
this.
and that's fine. But I want to let you know that literally she does this every interview. Where you just need to correct people and say it's Sarah.
I'm glad that
I've
was
been called
correct.
both my whole life.
So to start off, Sarah, what was the inspiration for the story?
Well, I wasn't the original writer, but so it was a premise that came from our original writer named Neil Patel. But I loved it, and I came on as a rewrite, a co-writer, and then Lily came on as a co-writer. So it was a collaboration. But I think I sparked to the story because I loved the idea of telling a story about sex education, and especially through the lens of an Indian American woman who it's a Indian American woman who's a virgin who gets a job teaching sex ed. So it's just like it checked a lot of the boxes for me, which is really smart, funny female lead, relatable, grounded characters, a hilarious premise, but also a profound message. So it's sort of like my favorite type of movie. So I sparked to it for all of those reasons.
Same question? Cool. I love that. For me, the sex ed angle is important for me. But I think for me, what really drew me in was this type of story that we've not really ever seen before, which is usually being a virgin makes you the butt of the joke. And there's only a handful of movies that even discuss this topic to that extent. Obviously, what comes to mind is 40-Year-Old Virgin. This is from a female perspective where we're actually like telling the story of what happens when you don't have sex education, when no one wants to talk to you about sex, when you never get to talk. Like, what are the consequences of that? And we're kind of showing, I guess, some of the shame that follows girls and women because of that, and some of the unlearning they have to do in learning. I think that's a relatable story, not just from my own life, but I think so many girls and women and people in general can relate to that. I think it's a very important message, and it's that much better when you lather it with a bunch of comedy.
Lily, tell me about your character, Maya.
Maya is a character indeed. She is someone who started her journey off thinking she had it all figured out. She thought she was rebellious and she was in control of her life, made some mistakes, went through some situations without giving out any spoiler alerts, and then kind of had this upbringing where she was very much so put into a mold. This is what you're supposed to do, this is what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And as an adult, she's really struggling to just have her own identity, make choices for herself. I think we all kind of go through this in our adult life. I know I definitely have recently, which is okay, I've been downloaded a bunch of information of what I'm supposed to be and who I'm supposed to be and what people expect of me. But there's also the what I want. And these things are constantly at war with each other. Maya's story is that. It's, am I going to start making decisions that are good for me, or am I just going to keep listening to what everyone always tells women to be,
The kind of presentable.
Yeah. So
versus...
it's a story about her growth. It's a story about de-weaponizing shame, but it does at the same time make commentary about why Mayas even exist. Why do people like Maya even exist? I think that's not a mistake. I think the world tries to make everyone a Maya.
Can you both talk about using personal experiences to kind of influence the script?
I grew up in a Persian home, and so we were really progressive family for our community, but still topics like sex and dating and relationships were still pretty taboo. And even when I turned to in high school, the American high school curriculum also doesn't really offer any kind of insight. So you're kind of stumbling and trying to figure out as a teenager how to deal with sex and sexuality on your own, and your peers are misinformed. So that felt really relatable, that just what it feels like to be a teenager and trying to figure out your sex and sexuality. But so the story of the teenagers is very relatable. There's a beautiful mother-daughter storyline in this movie. And I think the story of family is, especially an immigrant family, is in the story. So that was very relatable to me. And also just a woman coming of age and like learning how to be in her skin and in her own, in her own kind of identity. And so it has like all of those elements: coming of age, immigrant family story, and a hilarious, outrageous, raunchy sex comedy. It's kind of got all.
It's a documentary.
It's a documentary
No, I'm
about
kidding.
immigration.
No, yeah. I mean, there's so many. Every interview we've done thus far, we're like, this happened in our life. It's in the movie. There's so many stories from our lives that are in the movie. And I think the magic of this movie is that a lot of people that watch it are going to be like, they took this from my life. So I think whether it's unlearning shame, whether it's the conversations with the mom, whether it's the scenes with the friends, whether it's like Maya feeling really awkward in certain sexual situations, I relate to all of that. That's all from anytime Maya is a hot mess and uncomfortable, that is from my life. Anytime she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about, that's from my life. So it's not based on a true story, but it's based on a true story.
And we all, I think even people we've been interviewing with, like the gym teacher teaching you sex ed is a very common story. And so that also is like, I think really relatable to a lot of people is what kind of sex education they got in high school.
So speaking on this issue through a comedic lens, I mean, you have an amazing cast of comedians: Mary Holland, Anna Gasteyer, Stephanie Beatriz, just to name a few. Can you talk about marrying comedy and the issue that you're trying to talk about?
Yeah, I've always believed that that is the superpower of comedy. So one of the things I love about comedy and why I think I gravitated towards it at the beginning of my career was that I grew up in an upbringing full of taboo topics. There was no shortage of taboo topics. It was sex, mental health. Everything was a taboo topic. And so if it wasn't for comedy, I wouldn't be talking about anything. I wouldn't be addressing anything. Everything from me coming out to talking about mental health, it's always been a joke. It's always been me testing the waters. Like, me and my friends are hanging out. Oh my God, what if I liked girls? Like, you know what I mean? Comedy has helped me just talk about things that were impossible to talk about. And I think when you talk about subjects where, there is a lot of different sides of the coin, I think it helps people lower their defenses. And I think this is a subject. Like, I'm not going to be surprised at all if there's a few uncles that watch this movie and are upset about it. You know what I mean? But that's what comedy's for. It's to start these conversations, open up these dialogues. And I also think if it wasn't for comedy, I wouldn't be able to be so comfortable with the subject matter either while shooting it,
Yeah, same. I mean, humor was like the art of survival. In my family, we used it to cope. We used it to face struggle. And it's just, I think, really inherent in my voice. And I just naturally gravitate towards other people who are funny. It's just a value that is so important to me in just moving through the world. So I think, comedy it's just the way, for me, life is just a big tragic comedy. It's like, not totally tragic, but it's not totally funny.
Like, my funniest moments are in therapy. Like, my best stand-up bits, my best jokes are in therapy. Honestly, my therapist thinks I'm hilarious. Because that's the goal of therapy. I'm like, do you think I'm funny? Do you like me? Am I your favorite client?
And then last thing, how do you think your younger self would react to seeing this film?
Well,
very appreciative.
My younger self didn't know which hole she peed out of. So my younger self didn't know what a penis. So my younger self actually thought penises were detachable. I did overhear someone in the playground once say that, and I believed it up until grade 9. So my younger self would have so appreciated this movie, would have learned so much from this movie, would have not felt like such a freak and so alone if this movie existed. And like I said, there's probably going to be uncles that are mad, but if at least one other girl watches this movie and goes, wow, this makes me feel better about myself, I'll be happy. So, a lot.
Well, that is it for the questions. Thank you so much for doing this.
Okay. You guys also said you wanted a live demo of some of the scenes in the movie, right?
The detachable penis. We
Yeah.
have a demo for that.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay, I'm done.